What's going on, friends and neighbors? So, I've been kind of putting off doing this video for a little bit. So, this officer, right? Officer Tou Thao, right? Sentenced to 5 years for the charges from George Floyd's death. Now, so, okay, so this Officer Tou Thao, and if anybody knows me personally, they know I spent a lot of my life in and out of the system, since early youth. Like, I think the first time I was ever picked up by the police was like age 11. I've done time in juvie, I've done time in adults. I've had my issues with law enforcement on and off. I mean, I've met some decent ones, but, I have this deep-seated almost hatred. I'm trying to get rid of it, but like I have this animosity towards law enforcement, right? I grew up in the hood. Some people don't like you saying that if you're white. You can't, why are you calling our neighborhood hoods? I grew up in the hood, all right? That's what my neighborhood was known as, you know what I mean? I mean, you could also call it a ghetto, because it definitely was a fucking ghetto. Anyway, so this officer, what's his name, Tou Thao, he gets 5 years, right? And again, not a huge fan of the way law enforcement is and the whole officer safety and blah, 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 blah thing, right? Like, everybody should be safe, of course, especially in your job. Anyway, he did crowd control, right? He wasn't on George Floyd, right? And you can feel whatever way you want about George Floyd, the cause of death, this, that, and the other thing, Derek Chauvin, all that, Anyway, he was doing crowd control. He was the one that was standing there by the curb when people were gathering and yelling, and maybe rightly so, maybe not, whatever. I'm not. That's not what the point of this is. But he was doing crowd control. He didn't attack anybody. He didn't, what was he supposed to do? Be like, okay, have at it. You know what I mean? I mean, whether what happened was right or wrong and this and that, and, people are still debating that, and, I don't think it was right, but, he did have other stuff going on, and, but still, probably shouldn't be dead, right? He was already in the car. Leave him in the motherfucking car. I don't care if he's saying he's getting claustrophobic and kicking and shit. Drive him to the station in the car like that, Anyway, this guy here, he just stood there telling people to hold back, right? And you could see, he had some fear in him, this shit was going down. And he gets 5 years. 5 years. Like, he already lost his job, right? I mean, I guess he can't be a policeman ever again, well, especially now. But, like, they had already dismissed him, suspended him, fired him, and then charged him. And he gets 5 years in jail for standing there? I mean, I guess if you were doing a robbery, but supposedly they were acting lawfully. You understand what I'm saying? Neither here nor there for my argument. What I'm saying is 5 years. 5 years. Like, he probably didn't have a criminal record, right? As far as I remember, I don't remember him having many complaints, if any. I think he was pretty new on the force as well. And, 5 years just seems like a lot, right? We got people burning up places. We got people smashing into stores, smashing grabs, and the mob snatches up and, grabbing all this stuff and stealing and people shooting each other. I mean, I just watched a video in Kensington, freaking Pennsylvania, and there's a man shooting another man in the neck in his vein with freaking whatever they're shooting up with, and but like, they don't get any time or even rehab but 5 years, and I'm sure this unpopular opinion, people have their views about George Floyd and law enforcement and whether it was right or wrong, and then the summer of love that followed with all the mostly peaceful riots that were going on in 2020, but 5 years? 5 years. Again, not a huge fan of law enforcement. I am trying to let that shit go. I truly am. It's hard, but 5 years. I mean, not probation. Come on, man. 5 years. But yet the lawlessness in the streets. You see these people in LA breaking into cars, living right San Francisco, all these places. Like 5 years, though. 5 years for a police officer. Again, not the largest fan of the police. But 5 years seems a little ridiculous. I mean, come on, man.